Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time, thank you for clicking on this video. So today's video is going to be an interview slash makeup session with Jasmine McKinney. Jasmine is the director for diversity engagement at Liberty University. It was really nice having her. We had a good time, good conversation. If you're battling with your esteem, you're battling, feeling like your pace in life is slow, feeling like God is not answering your prayers and things like that, like your mates are achieving better and higher than you, do watch this video. You are going to be blessed. You are going to thank me for this video. Please enjoy. I struggled with editing. I didn't know what part to leave or what part to I did what I could do. I wanted to make it short, but at the same time make the video have value. So don't forget to like, guys, subscribe and turn on the notification bell so that you are notified when a new video is uploaded. Bye guys. Mwah.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard.
I know. What don't you like?
What don't I like?
Why sometimes, rather?
Well, I think that there's so many facets to being a woman. I'm not saying that, you know, men are boring or anything, but
yeah.
but there's so many facets to what we bring to the table, who we are just as humans. But as far as what I don't like, first of all, there's this little creepy thing that happens every month. That is horrible. So that probably is where I would start first. However, I guess the pain is worth it because of what it allows you to be able to produce from that pain. And it just goes to show that life, sometimes, you know, some of the greatest gifts in the world are birthed through pain. So,
Sure. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so good. That's so good.
I don't know. I would say we're pretty magical.
Yeah.
You know, Tiffany Haddish calls herself a unicorn, like the last unicorn. But I'm like, I feel like all women are unicorn. All of us are rare in our own way. All of us bring so many different things to the table. I mean, I grew up there's 4 of us girls. My mom and dad have 4 girls and 1 boy. And although we have a lot of similarities, we also have a lot of differences.
Yeah.
And even as I've worked in the workplace with other women, I just realized how, you know, we just all bring so many different things to the table.
Yeah.
You know, I'm more of a strong-headed woman who is like, I would say I'm pretty bold when it comes to certain things. And then, but I surround myself with other women to balance me out, right? So, like, I have quiet friends, and I have and then strong-willed friends too. And I think it's important to surround yourself with both of those, because I think we can help each other, you know, along the way. Yeah. So I think that's very important. Another thing that I like to do too, and I think that is important being a woman, and I think is beneficial, is I also surround myself with older women. Yeah, so I had a friend, he's a guy, but he made fun of me because he was like, you have the most like diverse group of friends, and not even diverse in color, but this particular diverse was in age. Because I call one woman that I work with, she's like my best friend, but she's 56.
Wow.
And I'm 30.
I actually like older women.
Yeah. And there's a level of wisdom and guidance that she offers our friendship that I appreciate. Yeah. And also, I think I have just a special place for older women anyways, because I grew up, my mom was older when she had me too. So, you know, she had me when she was 41. So that's, although it's more common now, you know, it's still something that people are like, your mom was how old when she had you? Like, most people are like trying not to have kids, you know, at that age, but she did. And so I kind of grew up with a more mature and seasoned mentality, if you will. So yeah, so that makes a difference. It makes a whole lot of a difference. So and then I have another friend who's I have several friends who are probably like right in their 40s, mid 40s, somewhere in there. All my sisters are older.
Yeah.
You know, my oldest sister's like 50 something too. So,
Wow.
yeah. So I'm surrounded by
You're
just.
the last child.
I am. I'm the
Wow.
baby.
But you're so strong-willed. You're so like you don't have baby vibes at all.
Right.
No
So
baby vibes.
one of my sisters, her birthday was this past week, and I
Yeah.
call her my little sister.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
So no, I love that. I don't have baby vibes
No,
at all.
no.
I have very much so.
The first day I met you, I didn't even talk to you, but you carried the room, like your presence.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, you know, I think that's important. And one of the things that I do, you know, even in my job when I'm working with students is, you know, I don't want all of that shine for just me. So
Yeah.
I always, you know, try to make it a priority to instill that in other females that I see and
That's so
stuff.
good.
So, you know, if I'm going to be an agent of change, then
so good.
I should always walk into a room and command it. But then I also want to make sure that I'm empowering other women to do the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh, there's so much I would tell my 16-year-old self. I would tell her, first of all, slow down. Slow down. I would tell my 16-year-old self what I'm telling my students now, which is life in hindsight, you can look at it as a race, but at the same time, it's not about, you know, who's the quickest or who gets there the fastest, you know?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we get lost in trying to just become something, you know, and we create an image in our head, and we become obsessed with that even. And sometimes we lose focus of things that really matter, trying to get to something that's, you know, if it's predestined, it's going to be there. You're going to become it regardless how long it takes. And so that's one of the things that I would definitely tell myself is that listen, you don't have to move. You don't have to move quick. You don't have to move fast. And then also enjoy your youth. Oh gosh, I can't tell you how I wish I could get young people to understand. Like they're like, oh, I want to be grown. I want to get out of the house. I want to have my own things. Okay. You think you do. But like I just reminisce on the times where I would come home from school, and like that night mom would be cooking dinner or something, and I'm like, I miss that, you know? I really do. And oh my gosh, and people don't realize, you know, when I was younger I didn't appreciate it because I wanted to go out to eat. And they'd always be like, well, do you have eating out money? I'm like, well, no, but can we still go? Oh my God. But now, you know, I can get my mom to cook anything. Or I cook for her now when I go home, which is totally fine. And that's something that I'm happy to do. But so that's something I would tell my 16-year-old self is don't be in a rush. Okay. Don't be in a rush. That life is going to be what it's going to be. And it's going to, you know, if you're going to, whatever God's path is for you, you're going to get there. You're going to get there, but don't be in a rush. Enjoy your youth, embrace that, and learn all you can, and have fun while you can be a child. You know, and it's okay to even make a couple of dumb mistakes. You know, nothing illegal, of course, but that's going to get on your record. But definitely make some mistakes so that when you get your 20s, you're not still acting like a teenager. But so now that I just turned 30 things. And you don't have to stay in stuff, you know? I know it's kind of broad and kind of vague, but you know, I always talk about loyalty. Loyalty is something I always talk about because sometimes it can get real skewed because sometimes we can be loyal to people and to things to our detriment. And although loyal is a good thing, you want to make sure that you're not being loyal to something that's not going to add to you. Yeah.
To allude to like achievements and things like that, sometimes I feel like my pace in life is slow. Like, so you saying that, like when you were saying that, I don't know if that's what you meant, but it was speaking to me that like that there's no who says that, you know, this has to be the timing of, you know, who says that this. When you were speaking, it was really ministering to me in that way.
Yeah, a lot. You know, what's funny is that the more I say that to people, the more people are thinking. Because I'm one who I always say, I feel like I'm a late bloomer, and what that means is I feel like sometimes that I'm just learning things later. I feel like I'm catching up a little later. Like, why didn't I know this? Why didn't I know that this is how this should have been done? Or you know, whatever the case may be. And I'm realizing more and more that there's so many people who are in that same boat. And maybe maybe I'm not behind after all, you know? And a lot of times I think,
so smart.
It's all about perception, and it's all about, you know, what you allow your mind, how you allow your mind to process and to think about things, okay? And then also how you receive what other people say. I'm not going to say that you shouldn't listen to people, but I think oftentimes we don't process, you know, things that we're taught and things that are said. Sometimes we just we take it and we're like, okay, that's right. And it's like, it might not be. And everybody's different. Everybody's process is going to be different. You know, in life, like where you start, where you are in the present, and then where you end up. So we're just all in different phases of life. And I think it's important to know that, you know, regardless of whether you start late or not, you're still gonna get there. You're still gonna get there, regardless. And watch this. I hope I say this right, but me and my friend were just talking about it, and because he was kind of sharing with me his same sentiments about feeling behind. And you know, that's something that women and men, you know, both deal with that. And so he said he was reading something, and I can't remember it, so I'm gonna try and, you know, paraphrase it. But I'm gonna try to explain enough where you understand. So it's like, you know, you can be the person who starts late in life and, you know, is 40 or 50 and 60 and still working, or you could have become the CEO at 25 but die at 50. You know what I mean? So life, you just never know. If you have life, you have hope, and it's just work where you are. You know, work where you are. Just make do with what you have in that moment. You know,
and just be thankful for your lot in life.
Exactly. Because you don't know. First
about it, I struggle with it a lot of times. I feel like oh my God, see this person, see that person, and like, you know, that like my not necessarily compare myself with people. Maybe kind of sort of.
We do.
Maybe kind of sort of, but like just feeling like you're so slow. Like you're everything about you is like your pace in life is so slow. Like you're achieving so late. You know.
It's hard, especially when you are, you know, surrounded or a part of a generation in a time where everything is so polarized, and you know, and magnified, and we see things. You know, you have media, you have TV, you just have, you know, people just walking around in life. You know, so we're shaped by everything around us. And, you know, depending upon what that is going to affect us in different ways. And so, you know, the whole concept of being late in life or whatever, you know, sometimes we're looking at people who, you know, take social media, for instance. You're looking at people who look like they have it together. You know, they're taking pictures here and there. And it's so funny what you can do with a camera. It's so funny what you can do with makeup, what you can do with a couple of outfits. You know, you get one good designer bag and you just wear it, and it's like, oh, well, she must be doing good. She has a designer bag, you know. But I'm like, okay, but you know, you don't even know somebody just bought that for me. You know, it was a gift. You know. So it's so crazy how we think in life right now, how things affect us. So that's definitely something that I have been trying, and I think as you get older, those things you'll start seeing things in a different way. You'll start being like, you know what, I'm right where I need to be, you know. And if other people, if where they are it seems better, then you know, that's just where they are. But we have to learn to be okay with, like you said, with our lot. We have to learn to be okay with where we are and what God has done for us. You know, it's amazing because I went from, you know, making hardly any money, doing a lot of work though, but making hardly any money, often looked over, and just wondering, like, Lord, when is it gonna happen? Like, am I doing something wrong? Like, what am I doing? And then, you know, just having a lot of questions, only to one day, in a matter of moments, God just turning my life completely around, and, you know, providing for me in ways that I just it just blew my mind. But oftentimes to think them in, you know, I'm gonna try not to preach, but
no, please,
oftentimes we get to a place where it's just like, you know, we want to give up. And this is something that I tell people all the time. A lot of times your breakthrough and what you are praying and asking God for, and this is, and let me just say it this way, it's in my experience, this is how it's happened, that I'll be praying and asking God for something and it never seems like it's gonna come, and I feel like my breakthrough doesn't come until I'm to the point where I have gotten to the point where I'm okay if it doesn't happen.
God has been talking about this same, like I've been thinking about this same thing.
Yeah.
I've even been thinking of how to word it into a post where, like, I was thinking that, like, when you learn surrender, I've been thinking about it.
When you learn surrender, that's exactly what that is.
Oprah has something about this.
Yeah.
Where she really wanted to act in the color purple. But you know, it's one thing to know something in the head and to experience it. And I have experienced it.
Yeah.
Recently, even coming to America, I had tried and it didn't work, and then I was like, okay, it's okay. Like, it's okay if it doesn't happen. And that was when I got the visa.
Yeah.
So, and several things like that where I'm like, okay, if it doesn't happen, Lord, plan B. But before I got to that point, I was in a place where I was like, God, please, God, do it. You said in your word, you said this, you said that, quoting scriptures, you know, like being so on the edge, like, God, you have to do this, you have to show me that you're God, blah blah blah. But and then I'm like, no, like, if it doesn't happen, what next? You know, you'll be fine. Like, I love you even if you don't. So it's so amazing that you just said this. I'm sorry,
it's okay. Confirmation does that. Confirmation does that.
Yeah,
confirmation does that. And I'll even go as far to say I think that sometimes, like, we don't receive things until we go in, and you said the right word. There's a level of surrendering that has to happen, because you don't know how you'll manage something if he gives it to you just because you ask for it. Now, although he says ask anything in my name, you know, and he said he'd give it, but a lot of times we don't realize that unless it's according to his will, you know what I mean, and his timing as well. And so when it does come, once we have experienced that moment of surrendering, we're able to manage that in a more mature way, right? Because I think oftentimes we think we're ready for things and we're not. We're not. And it's so funny because when God did turn my life around and things did start happening for me in a great way, it was so crazy. But I had a moment where I was able to sit back and reflect and say, okay, had this have happened
at this time,
when I was, you know, back then when I was praying for it, I wouldn't have been as grateful as I am now. I wouldn't have managed this as, you know, maturely as I am now. Everything we go through, it's him building our character, right? It's him building, you know, stamina and grit. So those are some things that we really have to think about. So
that's so good.
So one thing in particular, I would say, you know, being in the workforce and in the workplace, one of the narratives, or even in ministry, I would even say, one thing is women are emotional, right? Like, we lead with our emotions. And
so good
I used to say, you know, well, you know, I'm not emotional, I'm passionate. You know, and that's always something that I always had to counter when somebody would tell me, you know, well, you're just being emotional. And I would be like, I'm not emotional, I'm passionate. There's a difference. And then I had to think about that thing, and I'm like, you know, actually, passion is an emotion. So you can call me emotional, that's fine. But let's identify what emotion is happening right now, because I think there's been this, it's almost like a negative connotation when people say, like, women, you know, lead emotionally, as if to say, like, we cry about it, you know what I mean, or we pout and stuff. And I'm like, that is so not the case, because anybody knows me knows, you know, you're not gonna see me cry. I'm not gonna let you have that much power. I'm not gonna let you have that much power. Now, do I think it's good to cry? Absolutely. I think there's a time and a place for it. But I also think that leading with emotion is not always bad like people think. And I think sometimes, you know, and if it's men calling women emotional, saying, you know, women lead with emotion, I'm like, will, there's a level of how can you not lead with emotion? Because when you're leading, what are you leading?
How do you worship God without emotion?
That's good.
How do you
Yeah.
When there are people are talking about emotional worship, you have to involve everything.
You
Spirit,
do.
soul, and body. So your emotions have to be involved.
Yeah, so they play a role there, They definitely play a role. And so I think we do ourselves a disservice when we think that that's not the case. Even Jesus, when he walked the earth, everything he did, it was some form of emotion behind it.
Yes.
Compassion,
Yes.
is that not emotion?
Yes.
Love, is that not emotion?
He was angry.
Yeah, is that not emotion?
Yes, it is.
He even wept at one point. In correction, that's a level of emotion.
Yeah.
And so I think, I'm not for sure where the narrative started. Maybe because at some point women were maybe some women do cry, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But I think, just to coin that women, generalizing all women as emotional leaders with that type of negative connotation, I think is definitely something we, need to debunk and nip in the bud, okay? Yeah. Our vice president is a woman, so let's let it go now. So that's definitely something, and I still say that I'm passionate because I want people to realize that I'm passionate about what I do. So if that's what you call emotion, then I'm okay with that. Yeah. But to patronize me or any woman because we are passionate and that's how we lead with passion. Yeah.
And to say that as if we don't belong there because we're passionate.
Because we're passionate, right, exactly. And I'm not afraid to speak up. I'm not afraid to rebuttal. I'm not afraid to ask questions. Yeah. And I think it's important that we do that. Yeah. And so yeah. That's one of the things that I would debunk. Another thing that I would debunk is or just really like to talk about is the concept of like how women have to pick and choose. Yeah. I'm not married and I don't have children. Yeah. Is it something I desire? Yeah. But one of the things, and I know for us, where we work and where you go to school, there's a culture of like having to pick and choose sometimes, where there becomes the conversation of, well, if you're working, but you get married, or if you have kids, can you still work? And the concept of thinking that, I've got to give up my career to be a wife. I've got to give up my career to be a mother. And it's just so hard, just to even think about that. And one day, I was talking with some other women, and we were just talking about that concept and how, it's really sad that we've had to, that narrative has been creative or that ideal, because really, in all reality, when you do become a wife and a mother, and if you decide to, put your current career on hold to tend to those needs, we call it leaving our career, but I call it changing careers.
That's the job.
It is a job. It is a job in its own self. And it's like, we need to look at it as a career change and not giving up our careers, because listen, I can always come back and teach, right? I can always come back and do something that I'm doing now. But when I get married or if I have children, that's not me giving up my job or my career for that. That's me changing careers, especially when it comes to children. Again, I don't have kids, but I understand how important it is to raise good human beings. And it's like, sometimes I feel like mothers, and even those mothers who don't work or just stay at home moms, it's like sometimes I feel like they're devalued, and I'm just thinking like, that is so not okay, because it's so important, because people need to realize, okay, first of all, these women who are home full time with your children are creating, they're the ones who are creating the human beings that's going to be your employers, when your employees one day, or maybe even your boss, or maybe the president, or maybe the community doctor. You know what I mean? We're raising these people to be decent human beings, prayerfully. Everyone is. And it's so important. And I think if mothers had that opportunity to really be appreciated in a, just in that realm alone, I think we'd have, first of all, I think we'd have better parenting, and that's no indictment on the ones who are good parents, kudos to you. But I just think we just have better human beings in the world, honestly.
That's so good.
Months.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just sometimes feel like women don't get enough credit for how magical we are. And I say that like use the word magical lightly, like, just as something cute, but it's so true.
Someone say if a woman gives you births your baby, you should worship the ground she walks on.
Literally.
Because it's a lot of work.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Feeling that if you have to give up one to have one. And she talked about how every time, because she's worked in top positions with big people and all that, government, blah blah blah, business, tech, whatever. Google, she's worked with Google and all. And so I think she's still on Facebook right now. And she was just saying how like she's seen women when they come to resign, she always asks, like, she knows that they think they're getting married soon, or they even she says she's even seen single girls who even haven't gotten married but already planning on quitting before, just because they think that they have to have one in place of another. So like she was saying that she basically encouraged people to, even when pregnant, you can work pregnant, of course.
You can
work pregnant, and like just don't think that like you have to forfeit everything. And she wasn't being insensitive to the fact that people have difficult pregnancies, because she even did mention that she was always nauseous, she always had nausea.
Yeah.
So she wasn't, that wasn't the angle where that wasn't coming from the place of insensitivity. It was just like there's a way to do these things. There's maternity leave and all of that. In fact, she was even advocating for maternity leave for men. She advocates maternity leave for men.
Nice.
It's just one state in the US. She said there were 2 states that give men maternity leave or paternity leave. But so it's just what you were saying, that when you were speaking, my mind just went back there, that women feel like they have to choose one. But if you're strategic and because by the time you take 2 years off or whatever time off to go and come back, it's just hard. You're like at the bottom, you're at the bottom of your career. Whatever your career path is, you're at the bottom. So
it wouldn't even be something that we would even talk about. But comparison definitely is real, and oftentimes we'll find ourselves in those places where we do compare ourselves to where people are, other people, other women, but one of the things that I always tell people all the time when it comes to things, and people are like, well, I'm struggling in this area, or I'm struggling with that in that area, and I'm just always like, well, listen, I'm gonna tell you now, more than likely it's your struggle is probably starting in your mind. And that's not even probably, more than likely it is starting in your mind. And when those thoughts of inadequacy and insecurities come into your mind, which they will, I just go back to the scripture, right? Cast down imagination and exactly. And I'm telling people all the time, like, listen, if it didn't start in our mind, that scripture wouldn't be there, right? The scriptures wouldn't be instructing us, giving us instructions on different things. But when it tells you to cast down imagination, right, and anything that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, that's everything that's negative, everything that's contrary to His word and to His will for our lives, right? So if I'm scrolling through Instagram and I see some influencer, or even if I see a friend, somebody who I know, because sometimes this is how deceiving sometimes this stuff can be. We can know people's circumstances, but because they're so good at putting it on Facebook or putting it on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, because they're so good at masking it, sometimes we'll even be like, well, wait a minute, they are better off, or they are doing this and doing that. It's like, but you just was with them and you just heard them say that they were broke, that they needed gas money, and it's so funny how a strong image how strong image can be, and perception. I tell people all the time, it's all about perception. Like, and you have to be able to be open to reality and be open to the truth, right? Because oftentimes, you know, sometimes we will sway on what we know to be true for just the sake of what seems good or what tickles our fancy, you know, because it looks good or something. And sometimes we'll allow ourselves to be deceived. And it's really important that we just, you know, stand firm for sure. And so I think that's something that a lot of people are dealing with right now in society overall. I mean, you know, and then also when we talk about identity, right? Who we are, what we are, where we come from, all of those things make up our identity. And I think that oftentimes society has, you know, put it out there and maybe not directly or overtly, you know, said, hey, you gotta find your identity in this. But I think so many things have been alluded to with just image alone. That's why I go back to, like, image is so powerful. Because we see with our eyes, and once those things enter our eye gate, they go into, you know, our minds, our brains. We start thinking about what we saw. And so it's just really important for us to remember, to just really remember who we are. And so something that I think is funny about myself is that I always try to find revelation in things, right? So one thing, I love movies. I love watching movies. And
to find the deep meaning.
And so, and you might laugh at this one, but The Lion King, not the live action one, because I don't like that one. I mean, it's okay for whoever does, but I love the cartoon. I love the original, the classic. It's great. So there's a part when Simba meets Rafiki, right? And so he's telling him, I don't know who I am or whatever. And Rafiki was like, well, I know who you are, and let me show you who you are. And he takes him to the water, right? He takes Simba to the water, and in the reflection of the water, Simba sees himself, but then he looks closer and then he sees his father. And then his father, through that reflection, begins to speak to him, right?
I'm guessing
he starts to speak to him and tells him who he is. And as he's telling him who he is, you know, Simba realizes, like, oh, okay, I'm the king. I'm the king. And so I think oftentimes that's why I tell you image is so important, because we find our identity by what we see, but that's why we should always point our eyes to Christ, because that's where our identity lies, is within him. So when we see him, right? When we see him, we should see our reflection in him. So that when he speaks to us, we know that, oh, okay, that's who I am. I'm a daughter of the king, right? I'm an heir. Okay? I'm a princess. I have rights. Okay? So exactly. So
you're so confident. Is there a mindset that makes you, what do you think about when you carry yourself the way you carry yourself? Like, I think it's kind of the same thing you're saying now, but you command, you don't cower, you don't bend, you carry yourself with so much like, you know who you are. Has there been a time when you struggled with your identity?
Yes.
So let us know, you know, there might be someone watching who struggles with their identity, and they want to get to that place where they're like, so.
Well, I will say this, for years I struggled with my identity and trying to figure out who I was, what I was. But not only did I struggle with that, I also struggled really, really badly with the opinions of other people about me, right? People's perspective of me.
I think women, I don't know if that's a thing with women, where like we just want people to like us.
Yeah. So for years, I dealt with that, and I remember I can remember like knowing that was a struggle of mine, and I can remember praying, saying, Lord, like, you know, God, please take this away, take this care that I have so much of how people see me and how they view me, like, because it became crippling at one time to the point where I couldn't deliver, I couldn't do, you see this, and it was not that, you know. So I can't even tell you when the shift happened. I just know that I just kept praying and asking God to do it for me, and I kept fighting that whole concept of caring about what people thought about me. Like there was a couple times where I would let it get to me, and then there was a time, and I'll tell you what else helps too. And you know, we always say, you know, you're crazy if you talk to yourself, right? But let me tell you something. No, you're not. You're not crazy. Matter of fact, that is an exercise that I do, and I share it with my friends, and they laugh. But it is. And I'm telling you, my mom used to tell me to get in the mirror and practice, right? She would say practice makes perfect. So get in the mirror and talk to yourself. And so I took that to so many different levels, right? So there'd be times where, you know, I would practice in the mirror or whatever. You practice your facial expressions, you practice, you know, how you speak or whatever. But then there would be times where I would get in the mirror and I would talk to myself as if I was somebody else talking to me, like, get it together. You've got things to do. You need to be this way. Who cares about what people say about you? Like, I literally would stand in the mirror, and I do it to this day. I stand in the mirror and I talk to myself. That's gonna sound crazy to some people, but it worked for me. And when I tell you, it's been real ever since, and I still do it, and I still encourage other people to do it. Or what? And watch this. A lot of times, we will create in our heads things that are not even there, right? So we create opinions that people, and they've not even said that to you. They've not even said that to somebody around you, you know, to even come and tell you. Now, there may have been times where that has happened, but a lot of times, I know for myself, I was creating scenarios in my head that wouldn't even exist. And you know, that's borderline crazy at that point. You know what I mean? That's paranoid. That's paranoia. And it's like, okay, and I realized that early on, and I would pray against that, and I would definitely pray against that and be like, okay, no, because I'm you know, putting more trouble. I'm bringing more trouble to myself and to my own mind, you know, and nobody's even saying anything to me, you know, and so I just had to come to a place where who cares what people think? Like, who cares? And you know, when you get grown and you start paying your own bills, right? You pay your own cell phone. You're the one that, you know, pays the tab to get your nails done, your toes done. You know, when you're at a restaurant, right? And you even have a $52 bill from a restaurant, right? Because you take yourself to a nice place and you hand them that card. You realize, okay, wait a minute, I'm the one running this show, right? I run this show. So even so even if anybody did have anything to say, it doesn't matter anyways. No, you take a couple of these bills and then I might listen to you. Please, rent. Please take rent, because who created that? Hopefully it wasn't a woman. But I do think that we are definitely getting better with that. And
I think we're getting better. Most people are trying to do better.
Yeah, because nowadays being mean and condescending and stuff is just not cute anymore. You know, it's just not. It's never been cute, but it's like people are calling it out. It's not cute anymore. Like, hey, it's just nice to be nice. And it's just nice to support people. And then, you know, and then also, even on the flip side of that, you know, I even want to talk about, you know, what happens when you don't support women or, like, let's say somebody's selling something, right? And I don't use it. I think sometimes sometimes there's conversation about how we should definitely, we should support people no matter what. And it's like, well, it's also okay if you don't support people.
I don't feel like you should feel forced.
Yeah, you shouldn't feel forced to support people. Yeah, and I think that's but watch this. We don't have to support as long as we're not putting down, right? Like if you're gonna be nasty, like I'm not doing that. Like that's like her stuff ain't no good. Like there's ways to like bow out gracefully. That's what I say. Yeah. Just bow out gracefully. Okay, you don't have to support it, right? Yeah. We don't have to talk about it. We don't have to bash it.
Let's just move on.
Yeah. And I think because makeup has become such a big, it's become such a big thing. I feel like there's a pressure for women to feel like they have to use makeup. And I mean, I just know some beautiful naturally
people just need to know that it's business and everyone it's business, so don't feel pressured because that person is trying to sell.
They're trying to sell
something to you,
right? And then some people, they may wear it just because they like it, but I think that's another thing that we need to stop doing. Like, I remember when Alicia Keys decided not to wear makeup. Yeah, but when she decided not to wear makeup, everybody like was flipping out, like, oh my God, like don't do that. Like you need to put on makeup. And I'm like, but no, she actually doesn't. Like it's okay, it's okay for us not to wear makeup. Like it's okay. So. And speaking of, women, I would be doing myself a disservice if I didn't, contribute a lot of who I am to my mom. The older I get, the more I say, oh my God, I am my mother's daughter. Yeah. All the confidence, everything is what she taught me. She used to tell me when I was younger, don't compare yourself. I would say, gosh, I wish I had what so and so has. Or she would tell me she would stop me dead in my tracks. You don't have that. That's not for you. You don't have that, so be okay with that. She always would tell me little things. And it's funny because if anybody who's close to me, they always hear me say, well, my mama used to say X, Y, Z. And because she had so many little nuggets that she would say. Yeah. And even now as an adult, like I can hear her voice and like I can just hear those things that she would always say to me. So it's really interesting how that works. So moms are very important.
Yeah.
As
you say that, I actually even think about my mom. My mom we used to always fight, but I mean, it's different contexts, but my mom would always be like, you're not this person, stop, well, don't think that you're that person, or blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be for like silly things like, well, maybe if I wrote lip gloss on my school shopping list, she'd be like, why are you writing lip gloss? What? This was when I was in high school, like, who do you think you always be like, who do you think you are?
Who do you think you are?
Yeah. Always. What are some of your core values?
So, I'm gonna start with prayer. Hate to be spiritual about it, but at the same time I don't. But definitely prayer. And then some other things I will say that I think have been very important that my mom taught me. Family, of course, right? Family. So God, family. But some of the things that she used to tell me, she used to say, let whatever people say about you, you know, if it's negative, she said, make sure it's a lie. She would tell me to make sure it's a lie. And I don't know, I could, maybe at the time I wouldn't understand that. And I hope people understand it when I say that. But she would say, like, you know, if stuff comes out about you, make sure it's a lie. Meaning, hopefully you ain't doing nothing.
Hopefully you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, hopefully, you know, it can, you know, you're not doing what they say you're doing. So she always told me, make sure it's a lie. And then she would never let me talk about people. Like if I had something bad to say about people, no. Wow. That's not your place. Wow. And if I assumed something about somebody, she would say, you don't live with them. You don't know what goes on in their house. Wow. You don't know what they do when they go behind closed doors. So yeah, she said a lot. Oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm ready.
This is something to your hair. Oh my God, so gorgeous. Okay.
Oh my God, I don't know. So are you ready for me to look? Oh my gosh, what the heck, girl? This is gorgeous. I don't think, I've had my makeup done by a lot of people. Yeah. But this is nice.
Wow. God.
No, I've had my makeup done by a lot of people, and this, I'm not even trying to be.
You're not that person.
Oh my God! You need her to, whatever you need. Okay, wedding party, birthday. She needs to do your makeup, okay?
Yeah.
Girl, this is what you call women empowerment. Okay?
You feel empowered.
This is what you call women empowerment.
Gonna be mad at you.
You can't let me walk around looking like this today.
Your sister is gonna be mad at you.
I know, I might have to bring her over here.
Yeah. So you are
Oh my God.
Your whole attitude is about to change.
I know. Let me go put on some real clothes and just be like, excuse me. Thank you. This is beautiful. You did a great job. Like, oh my gosh, you did amazing. I love it. You did so good. Oh my God. This is beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Close us out. Say something to someone. Close and end the video. Tell them to like, subscribe, and share, and all that.
Listen, you heard it already. Like, subscribe, share. What is the name of your YouTube channel?
Melody Nuhu. My name, just my name.
Melody
Nuhu.
Nuhu.
Yes.
Melody Nuhu.
Yes.
Go like, subscribe, follow all of that. Go to her Instagram. Go to her Facebook page. Whatever she's got, look it up. Follow her if you're in the Lynchburg area. Maybe you're in some other areas.
DMV.
Oh, she's in the DMV. But there's a lot of, I think I know of a few makeup artists around here in Lynchburg. I think I've only used one. So now I'm vouching for her. If you're here, come. Listen, you already see this, okay? You saw the process, all right? You saw the process, and here's the final product. Listen, come, like, subscribe, share. Listen, be encouraged. Women, be powerful, be bold, be beautiful, be confident, and be you, okay? If nothing else, be you. All right, I love you. Bye.